I find that the thing that stops people from being successful is fear of failure. Hi, it's Ashley from Need More Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to the segment that I am going to start calling Advice with Auntie Ash. So it's a new year, 2024, which means that all of you are probably goal setting. Now I realize the title of this video may seem a little bit harsh, but it really is the thing that kept going through my mind as I was growing up and going through my early 20s. So I know a lot of videos on YouTube really focus on how to be successful, and they give you all of these positive tips, and everything is just very, very positive and the things that you should do. But I'm here to talk about that thing that you normally shouldn't do, and that is fail. Fail time and time again. There was someone in my life that actually inspired this video, so thank you very much. So, of course, I can't talk about failure without talking about my own personal failures. So, one of the things that really taught me how to fail in life was figure skating. And this is going to sound really bizarre, but as I grew up, I really didn't feel like I made mistakes as a child. And because I was very bright as a kid and my parents were really strict with us about academia, I got to be that child in class that was always given admiration and a lot of encouragement from teachers. I was always used as the example for the class. You know, when you create an art project and your teacher just wants everybody else to get an idea of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, so they hold up, your hand turkey art and they're like, wow, look at how good and detailed Ashley's is. So for a long time, I just got to be this shining example, and that can be detrimental. Without facing any failure, it can actually cripple you. And as I grew up, I did start to feel this feeling and pressure of I always have to be perfect. I always have to be successful, or else I will no longer be this shining example. And when you're a child, all you want in life is to please the authority around you. I really, really wanted to please my parents. I wanted them to be proud of me. I wanted my teachers to be proud of me. It really didn't matter that much what my peers thought of me, but I'm not going to go and sit here and say that people don't care what their peers think. I think I did automatically just assume, of course, they think that I'm the greatest because look at all of these adult authority figures, the people that you go to and you tattle to, and they somehow fix the problem for you. They were all thinking that I was amazing. So obviously, all of my peer group also thinks I'm amazing. And so really the first time that I think I felt failure was when I started figure skating. And of course, when you're learning things like learning how to add, learning how to subtract, learning how to write your name, there are little steps of failure. So it wasn't as if I had never experienced it. I had just never said in my mind and clarified to myself that yes, when I struggle with addition and subtraction, this is a level of failure. But in figure skating, it's very obvious when you're failing. When you have fallen flat on your butt, that means that you have failed. So it wasn't as if I had these massive failures in figure skating, and that's what really, really taught me and put me in my place. It's just that it's one of those things, like any sport or any hobby that you do, there's going to be times when you are very successful, and there's going to be times when you experience failure of some sort. And with figure skating, I really worked on jumping. And of course, once I got into the double jumps, that was when things were really challenging, and you fall a lot and you get hurt a lot, and you're put into these competitions where you need to perform, and if you do not land your jumps cleanly, you're going to get deductions. So it was like when I was in figure skating, I finally learned how to climb that ladder of advancement. And I learned to do it in a healthy manner. So when I would experience, by the way, if you guys hear my oven, it's because I'm baking hash browns, hashtag multitasking. But anyway, so I climbed the level of advancement in a very healthy way, I think. And when you first start to jump in figure skating, you don't actually know necessarily what it's supposed to feel like. not knowing what it's supposed to feel like is actually half the battle. For me, at least, it was. So when I did an axle for the first time, I know I'm throwing out a lot of terminology here. Just hold on. I will get to my point. I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like in the air. You're literally launching yourself up in the air, not knowing actually what you're supposed to do. And you can do it off ice as many times as you want, but the difference in the gravity and the pull and the direction that you have on the ice is completely different. So when I landed that very first axle, was it perfect? No, but I felt what it was like to just feel that feeling for a split second. And then of course, once I kind of got that feeling, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. And after I landed that first jump, an axle technically isn't a double jump, but it's more than one rotation in the air. So once I landed that, it almost set up the pathway for knowing how to achieve landing those double jumps. Now, did I do them perfectly? No. Am I an Olympic figure skater? Absolutely not. But that's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that is where I learned how to feel failure and how to take it and make it into something successful. Because without falling that many times, I might not necessarily know how to do it right. Now, like I talked about earlier, I was a very, very bright student and I was always the shining example. But I never had a job growing up. I was very, very privileged. I still am. And my parents did not want me working when I was in high school. They really, really wanted me to focus solely on school. So my job, all the way from when I was 5 to nearly 18, was all you have to do is study. All you have to do is be the shining example. And that is success for you. So I was being told that by my parents. Now, I will say that much of that is true, but it really did create this sense that, okay, I'm invincible in the classroom, invincible, and the classroom is my life, because when you're a child, basically the only places to really excel are the classroom and any other extracurricular activities that you do. And I did excel in skating. Was I the top and the most amazing? No, but I was pretty good. So I had this feeling of, okay, I'm great. I'm successful. I've reached a level of success much more than those around me. And I'm seeing now, of course, that sure, I did do well in school and I worked incredibly hard. But a lot of those things, being a good figure skater, being a really, really good pianist, being able to play the flute really well, all of these things were because of my privileged upbringing that I was able to even learn these things. And as a music teacher now, I understand that certain people can have a level of musical talent, but that privilege mixed with that giftedness is what makes an amazing musician. And I truly believe that everybody has the capacity to be amazing and to be these amazing musicians. So I couldn't see that back then, though. I just saw, like, I'm amazing. People keep telling me I'm amazing. And it wasn't like I was walking around with my head super big. It was just kind of like, okay, great. So when I go along in life, I'm going to just tick off these boxes and everything is going to be fine. I got a wake-up call when I was about 19 years old, 18 going on 19. I worked at my first real job, and I say real job because I did teach math and I tutored and I did things like that, but I worked my first real job in a fast food place. And I was just tired, I guess. I don't know. I hadn't worked a lot of like physical labor type jobs, and this wasn't really that physically demanding, but it was more physically demanding than things that I had done in past, like having to stand for hours on end without being able or allowed to sit down. So I remember my boss pulling me into the back room being like, hey, you know, we've already cut down your shifts a lot because we noticed that you've been tired. So we need you to kind of pick up the energy. And I had thought that I was doing so well at this job. I was following directions, but maybe my body language just was saying, I'm tired. And I just broke down crying in that back room. I broke down crying in that back room. and they had to send me home. And that was the first time when I had faced a level of humility, embarrassment that I had never ever faced in my entire life. I was the golden child. I was used to being told by all authority figures and everybody around me that I was the top, that I was amazing, that even though I wasn't the best of the best, I was still way up there. And so working at this fast food job that I kind of just started working at because my parents were like, you need a job in the summer when you're going to university, it was eye-opening. And at that time, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure. Like, I can't believe someone yelled at me. They didn't even yell at me. It was just a reprimanding. And I was not used to any form of reprimanding and any sense of failure in that regard. So even though I had failed at achieving my own goals, aka the double jumps, it wasn't the same as this. This was somebody telling me, not just myself telling me. This was an outside person telling me, you have failed in some way or capacity. I know it's going to sound like, really, Ashley? That really wasn't that big of a deal. And it wasn't. But this is why failing is so important for your mindset. So my mindset at that time was, Ashley is perfect. Ashley can do no wrong. Ashley is super successful. And then just having that one incident was like, whoa, Ashley has the capacity to fail in that way where everybody can see, not just in my head on the ice. And then moving along from that incident, I eventually recovered from that incident. And what do you know? It made me a way better, way more skilled worker. I realized that maybe some of the behaviors that I thought were no big deal, like leaning over on something, was a big deal at certain places. So I got another retail-like job, and I excelled. And I was a top earner. I was asked to do a lot of shifts. I held a lot of responsibility at that place, and that actually launched into a lot of successful friendships that I had, and it was just a great experience overall. But had I not been told maybe about the things that I was doing wrong at that previous job, maybe I wouldn't have excelled so much at this next job that I was doing. And I was kind of doing them at the same time, but one of them I started later, and maybe I wouldn't have. For the first time, I failed something academically in university. And we've all heard this type of thing happen where you go from getting 90s, 4.0 grade point averages in high school, and then you go to university, and majority of people end up struggling, and a lot of your top students will end up going on academic probation. And luckily, that never happened to me. I just needed a quick jolt of reality, and I failed something. I failed like a paper in university, and this is a little bit of a side story, but I failed a paper in university, and it was for English, and I had always excelled at writing. In fact, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to be a journalist, and I thought that I was this incredible writer. I wrote a lot of stories and things growing up, so I was always really, really confident in my writing skills, and I had never faced any level of failure when it came to writing. And so when you're in 100 level English in university, you're kind of with like hundreds and hundreds of people in a lecture room because everybody needs to take that as a graduation requirement to get your undergrad degree. So they don't really know you in those English classes, but I remember writing a paper, and then on the bottom of my paper, I had failed. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe that I failed something in English. And it said something to the effect of, maybe English isn't your first language and you need some extra help. Now, there are a few things wrong with this story. First of all, I think it was a little bit of judgment of what my last name was at that time to say something like that on a paper. I don't think that that was right for my prof to write that on my paper. And it also said something like, maybe English isn't for you, which again, this was like a course that everybody had to take. So I couldn't believe it. But again, that embarrassment, that kind of humility, that wake-up call that, oh, I'm not the best writer. Oh, I still have things to learn. So important. To finish up that little story, just so you guys don't think that I'm a fraud and I went on to obtain my university degrees in a weird way, is I actually submitted the next paper and I ended up getting an A on that paper. So it was kind of weird to go from absolute failure, we don't think that English is your first language, to getting an A on my paper. I have a feeling that a lot of people failed that first one, and then maybe there were some complaints, maybe there was something that happened. I don't know. I was just hiding under my blanket in embarrassment that this happened to me. So that's how that story ended. But it was a very, very pinnacle moment in my head, that no longer was I this shining example, and I would no longer always be the shining example, just going off of my natural abilities and what achievements that I had in the past. Nobody cared what I achieved in the past in university. So that was a wake-up call. And without those moments, though, I would have probably gone through life for a while just thinking that I was great, and then the moment that I faced any other type of failure, maybe in a more serious situation, I might have just crumbled and folded over. And I'm so glad that those moments of failure happened for me pretty early on in my life. Early on, but also late enough in my life where I had the maturity and the sense to realize what was actually going on. And this is the point of all of these stories. Failure is not just about character building. It's not just about learning to bounce back or learning to hide it better. It's not that. Failure is your body and your mind teaching yourself how to fail and fail again, but then reach an end goal, reach a successful point. Everybody's level of success is different, just like everybody's level of happiness is different. So it really isn't about being Elon Musk, if that is who you look to as someone that is successful. It's about reaching your own personal level of success. For me, success is being able to provide safety for my family, being able to be financially comfortable, and also being in a job space that makes me feel inspired and happy. Some people, though, that is not their level of success. That is personally my level of success. And I find that the thing that stops people from being successful is fear of failure. And I find it really ironic that a lot of people have this fear of failure. And in doing so, because of their fear of failure, they don't try to reach for success whatsoever, because it's easier to not try and to be like, look, I'm still pristine, everything still looks good, but it's actually because you didn't try. You didn't try to reach a level of success. And I often hear from people, and across all ages, that I'm such a perfectionist. So anytime I want to try something, I think about all the things that could go wrong, or I don't get it to a perfect level, so then I don't even bother finishing it, and I don't even bother completing it. It's almost as if they believe that lack of failure makes you successful, and that is completely wrong. And another thing is, this is about mindset. Just like when I was talking about weight loss in my other video and getting healthy, it really is all about mindset. So what's interesting is we all think that the world is perseverating on our failures, when really it's probably ourselves that are perseverating on our failures, because of course we as people and as humans, we like to just pick and look at all the things wrong in our lives and celebrate those things. And I use the word celebrate very lightly. I promise English is my first language. But what is actually being perceived, I think, is lack of success. As in, if you're not trying to do anything, then people see that. people can see you're not doing anything in your life. So yeah, you're not successful. So it's kind of like this cyclical cycle. It's like, yes, if you don't try, then you're not going to fail. And if you don't fail, then you can say that you haven't failed, but you can't say that you've succeeded. Another misconception is that people that are successful stop failing. That means that failure doesn't exist in their life. But really, life is a series of failures punctuated with levels of success. And sometimes you're going to be really successful. Sometimes it's going to feel like your life is so on and is exactly where you want it to be. But sometimes it's going to feel like, wow, I'm really circling the drain. And that's normal too. But those people that really face levels of failure and crawl their way out of it and understand how to fix it, that is honestly the people that are the most successful. When you hear success stories, there is always a failure story that trails close behind it or in front of it. And going back to my figure skating analogy, really, when you're a figure skater and you are an Olympic champion, it doesn't mean that you stop falling. We've all seen figure skaters fall over and over and over again, even in competition. It just means that, yes, you keep falling, but you learn how to get back up better, faster, smoother, in a way that is not detrimental to the entire program. Right now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. My main channel is not doing that great views-wise. Like, I used to receive usually about 10,000 views per video. It started going down, down, down. Now during Christmas, when I uploaded every single day, I was barely hitting 1,000 views per video. But that's okay. Maybe I just need to switch things up. Maybe I need to do things a little bit differently. Or maybe I'm okay with that, right? It's about pushing through. And I think a lot of people would just be like, the channel's not doing well, so I'm just going to stop. But then I'm guaranteed failure, right? If I stop uploading on my channel, I am guaranteed to stop making money, to stop building my channel, and it's never going to magically be picked up by the YouTube algorithm if I don't upload content on there. But I've been through this before. Maybe not had this type of low on my channel since I surpassed, 200,000 subscribers, but okay. And I know I keep saying failure. It's very clickbaity to say, yes, go and fail. It really is just difficulties, challenges. The statistics really do say that only about 9% of people actually manage to complete their goals or keep their resolutions whenever they make these for New Year's. Don't be part of that 91% that doesn't. Be that 9% this year. And realize that maybe if your goal is weight loss, okay, you suffered some setbacks. It's all right. Keep going, because if you don't fail this year, you're probably not going to actually reach that much success either. So I hope that inspires you guys and that you hear my Auntie Ash advice as you are going through this year, making your goals, and you can do it. You can fail. Bye.